When you say you want to help people or that you want to make a change, most of the time it gets hard really quick. When that happens, it's very difficult to keep going. It's not that you're a bad person. You just run out of energy. Or you find out that you're in for way more than you bargained for. Oftentimes, you hit a wall that you have no idea how to overcome. So many wonderful community efforts get stopped in their tracks this way. So imagine there's this house. It's been abandoned, completely ignored for years, and it's totally fallen apart. Not safe to live in the slightest.
You can see that it was once beautiful, that at one time it had a family, and they'd have made a great life there.
Now you can come in, slap a coat of paint on it, spruce it up a little.
And that may make a nice photograph, but it doesn't change the fact that the house still isn't safe to live in, that it still isn't going to empower that family.
What this situation calls for is a total inside-out renovation.
You have to shine light into the dark places.
You literally have to open up the walls to see what's going on in the structure.
And a lot of the things that you'll have to do, you won't even know about until you get into it.
You think you're just going to put some new drywall up, but then it's like, nope.
You have to deal with the HVAC first. Or if you move this wall, then the plumbing that runs through it will have to move.
It's one surprise after another.
But if you do the work, if you stay at it, you can transform this house into something that gives new life to that family and also to the neighborhood. It becomes something that can truly empower for years to come. And that's sort of what it was like for us.
The LeBron James Family Foundation started with a bike-a-thon and then giving laptops to at-risk kids.
At the time, we didn't realize that we were just slapping a coat of paint on. But then we learned these kids didn't need laptops. They needed breakfast. When LeBron was growing up, things weren't easy. We had struggles. We went through a lot. We knew that's how it was for LeBron, but also for many other kids. So as we started talking about it, we started talking about what if we could change that? What if we could help these kids, the ones like LeBron, be better, do better? That's why we started all of this. I think the idea when we gave away the laptops was that we were helping to eliminate a barrier to the kids' success. When LeBron was a kid, a laptop would have been cool, but it wouldn't have changed our situation. It wouldn't have changed our context. But that's when we really started to do things differently, when we got that feedback and processed it. We needed to hear that, and we needed the people who were in a position to share that with us. It was like, that's some really great insight.
So we were like, okay, how can we meet these kids in a way that will actually serve them?
And that was really the beginning of I Promise. After that, we worked with the teachers and advisors to launch a summer camp and after school programs to the Akron Public Schools. It definitely stretched us.
I remember that it became really apparent early on that we needed to include the families. After years of doing big events every summer, we retooled that into our family reunion, a time for us to get together with all of our families.
And it's funny now because it all seems so obvious, but including the families really showed us what we were missing. If you want to help one kid grow, you can't just change one thing. You can't just give them a laptop or send them to camp for a week in the summer. It's just like we were talking about, just slapping a coat of paint on it, instead of taking the time to really understand the work that needed to happen. And that meant we had to look at the whole family.
And that was really the beginning of our wraparound philosophy and approach.
Wraparound means that you take the time to listen and to understand the entire family context that a child is in. And then you find ways to support them in that context.
And doing that, a game changer.
And there again, we're trying hard to help. We're learning a ton. We're working with the families. We're seeing change. And it occurs to us that some of these students could really use a role model that is outside of their family, but not just a teacher or an adult.
And that was the start of LeBron's 330 ambassadors.
LeBron's 330 ambassadors are high schoolers who represent him in the community and classrooms as mentors to our I Promise students.
Game changer.
So we're serving our kids through in-school programming, we're working with their families through our wraparound supports. We have high schoolers that are stepping into mentorship roles, and as much as we can, but not as often as we'd like, we get all our families together to celebrate. But something was wrong. We're making some impact, but not as much as we wanted, and everything we're doing was just so spread out and disconnected.
We needed a school.
The I Promise School was the culmination of everything we had done up until that point.
It brought our students and our wraparound supports all under one roof.
We had parents who never graduated from high school now getting their GED through our I Promise 2 program supported by Project Learn and Chase.
And that was happening right there in the family resource wing of our I Promise School.
By allowing both the curriculum and really the DNA of the school to be trauma-informed and combining that with the wraparound support that we develop, this eliminates barriers and really resets expectations for our families.
But even with all of that, there were still families and situations that needed to be overcome.
Over time, we have had a number of families who were in living situations that require immediate intervention.
Who, because of one thing or another, needed a place to stay, and when they needed it right away.
So again, partnership, right? We reached out to Graduate Hotels and they helped us identify and renovate a building that is now the I Promise Village.
The I Promise Village is so cool. It's a short-term transitional housing option for our families who are in an immediate need of a safe and stable place to live.
And it's walking distance from the I Promise School.
It's not just a hotel, just a room or a place to stay. It has 24/7 on-site support thanks to Mama S.
Oh, Mama S? She's amazing. Her son Jaden was in the original I Promise class. He would have been a freshman at Kent State this year, but sadly he passed away. But now Mama S has made I Promise her life's work. She's the village director. So basically, she's the village mom. And she lives right across the street in a house we call 35 Roads. She's there to support all of our I Promise Village families.
After diving in and learning about housing, we realized that we needed a permanent housing option for our families.
Last year, we broke ground on the I Promise housing complex. That's 50 units of long-term affordable housing. I've been one of those parents before who didn't have a place to stay. And having a place like this with the support in place for you to be able to succeed, it really changes what kind of future you can imagine for yourself.
So all of this has taken us years to put in place. But along the way, we didn't forget our first class of third graders. Kent State and the University of Akron have both offered scholarships to any I Promise student who puts the work in and earns it.
And that first class of third graders, they're freshmen in college now. And to support them, we pulled together on-campus resources into what we call the I Promise Institute, which is home base for our college students to recharge and get the hands-on tools they need for their workload.
And I would say that through it all, they're all doing great. It's not like we haven't made mistakes. We've made a ton, and we've learned from them. But the most important thing is that our kids have been empowered, their families have been empowered.
And it wasn't easy. I mean, starting off, you try to change one thing, and a dozen different things pull against you. But if you're patient and keep putting the work in, if you stay curious and are open to learning, open to truly understanding what the problem is, you'll get through.
We were fortunate to have great people alongside us on the journey, fortunate to have great partners. Nothing we've accomplished would have been possible without those relationships.
You cannot do this type of work in isolation. You just can't. You cannot do this alone. You have to do it in community with others.
And as we kept going, along the way, we realized that with a lot of help, we were creating something that had never been done before and that we needed to share what we've learned.
We've been leading a national conversation about redefining communities by sharing what we've been doing and what our families needed.
There are some big hurdles ahead of us. There are still a lot of roadblocks and obstacles for our families and families like them all across the country. But we started a conversation.
So McKeesport is just outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's a city that's similar to Akron in many ways.
We have a community where people are proud to be from here. They're proud to come back and to give back.
When we heard what was happening around the LeBron James Family Foundation and the multiple ways they were impacting their community, we knew we needed to be a part of the conversation. So we reached out and found a time that we could visit.
So the I Promise visit was tremendous. My assistant superintendent and I visited with all the staff and the individuals there, and there were so many eye-opening experiences. I can name a few, but really it's just about relationships.
That was an amazing experience going to the I Promise school, and it was interesting because we saw a lot of similarities between what went on there and what goes on in our district and our community also.
The entire wraparound approach that the foundation has developed really helped us see things that I think we knew intuitively, but had never seen implemented quite the same way. I've seen a lot of different interpretations of what wraparound looks like. And I think that what I saw happening at the I Promise school was a total reinterpretation of what wraparound could mean that's truly holistic. While I imagine that this happens in a lot of different places, and I've seen attempts at creating something like this elsewhere, I Promise does it in a way that is unlike any I've ever seen.
It seems simple, but it's actually complex to have such strong relationships, resources that are provided to children. And it doesn't always have to be financial things. It could be human resources, mentoring, development concepts, community development.
We were really encouraged because, to a degree, it empowered us to look beyond just what was happening in the classroom alone.
The effort with the transitional housing is all beyond education, but it's all tied back to the greater good. And really, the I Promise program really has a focus around having kids ready to engage and give their best effort.
But I think just the all hands in family aspect of everyone rallying around families and students in order for them to be successful is something that we value and that we always want to do better.
You walk in the doors of I Promise, it's amazing, it's beautiful. You see sneakers on the wall, you see beautiful murals, but all of that pales in comparison to how it makes you feel. We want to bring that feeling to the places where we work for all of our kids.
So if you're not have your thumb on the pulse of each individual child and you're looking at them to meet their needs and to find ways to create an environment that makes sense for them, then I think you're going to take that for granted, and that child's going to then have a disrupted day. And that child's going to end up not really engaging in any learning. So I think just looking at it from that perspective, I think is a meaningful way to address it.
It's not something that can be taught. It has to be caught. There are times when you find yourself in proximity to something really special, and you know that you have to get around it.
Now we're seeing this work inspire others, empowering others in other places outside of Akron, outside of Ohio.
Spending time with the foundation, learning about how they're doing what they do, this has encouraged us so much. It's more than good work. It's a movement, an I Promise movement. And that's a movement that we want to be a part of, that we want to cultivate, that we want to contribute to, and that ideally we want to spread everywhere. And making the I Promise movement a cornerstone of the work that we do here in McKeesport and beyond, it's an honor.
We even took the philosophy behind everything we do and put them into children's books.
The idea was that we wanted to make a tool that could reach more kids in homes beyond Akron. That's why LeBron wrote I Promise. That's also why LeBron and Andrea Williams wrote We Are Family.
Teachers across the country have built these into their curriculums.
I mean, we thought it was the right thing to do. We needed to share what we learned, and it seemed like a great way to do it. But who would have guessed that they both would have become New York Times bestsellers?
If you want to help someone grow, you have to be willing to do the work yourself. If you're not willing to shine a light on the hard stuff, why would anyone else?
It's not easy, but it's good. And we're always learning. If we really want what's best for our kids, then anything any conversation is on the table. That's really easy to say, but it's hard to do.
But because we're in a community with people who help us to see what we couldn't, who are experts in their fields, who can help us do things that we couldn't on our own, they really make everything possible. If you want to do something that serves your community, you have to engage the community.
And again, looking at our community and our families, seeing how we were all growing, we've come a long way. But we knew that we needed to do more.
At the surface, it's an entertainment complex. It's a destination, but it's so much more.
It's a place to hang out, for people to get together, a place for small, everyday life to happen.
It's also a place for major life moments and large events, a place to come when the entire community wants to get together and celebrate.
But first and foremost, it's a place for our families.
House 330 is our largest undertaking yet.
Innovative in both its design and its execution, it's a place for our families and the Akron community. There's retail, event, restaurant, and mixed-use spaces throughout. This is where our families can work and thrive. It's a space created for them. Every inch provides opportunities and services for and by our families.
The experience of House 330 is truly unique. It's offering something Akron has never seen before, and it's bringing the community together. This is a window into our philosophy. We are family and wraparound, brought to life. When you talk about I Promise movement, here you go.
So the building was the historic Tangier, which hosted some of the biggest stars and most powerful people in the 20th century.
I mean, Tina Turner, The Temptations, James Brown, that's just a few.
They've even hosted U.S. presidents, but now we're completely renovating it into something new. There's a Chase Community Center, which is the place for our families to get one-on-one personal help with their finances. Not just a place to do banking, but a way to learn and understand the practical steps towards financial health.
And you know we love Taco Tuesday. We have a great partner, Old El Paso, who's helping us build their first ever brick and mortar taco shop. This is just so cool. It's a place to share a delicious meal, but it's going to be staffed and run by our families.
And after years of getting our families together anywhere that we could fit, we'll finally have a place to call home inside the Smucker Hometown Hall. This is going to be a place for us to get together, but it will also be available for community events and major life moments.
But not only that, we're also building the world's only official LeBron James Museum. Our friends at Upper Deck have come alongside us to help develop this into the world-class destination that we know it deserves to be.
We know that we need well-organized areas to function at a high level. The experts at M Design have stepped up to really help us get that right. Plus, the kitchen staffing and culinary education is being supported by the PepsiCo Foundation.
As you see, partnership is everything to us. We've had a long and wonderful relationship with Nike. And when we told them about what we were doing, they didn't hesitate to jump on board to help in any way they could.
So this amazing space is being reimagined and remade into a space that will serve our community in new and empowering ways.
And we've been in full-on renovation mode.
A building this size that's this old, you know it's not going to be easy. I mean, every time you open up anything, there's 6 new puzzles to solve.
It's not a new build, so somebody didn't sit down and create this flow where this is all going to just work together, because this is how we're designing it. We're coming back retroactively into a building and trying to create a new flow. And it's big, and it's a bit overwhelming, so you try to focus on one space.
So you're trying to work the whole canvas, the whole plan, while at the same time you're also trying to give one specific space the attention it requires.
When you take it piece by piece and you start to really remember the depth and the story of the foundation, it sort of starts to weave itself into the design process, and then it kind of takes over.
And it's just like the foundation. The focus is on the one student, the one family, but we know that in order to serve that one student, you have to support the entire community.
We all have a context. Our students are the same.
We've just made an intentional effort to acknowledge and support them in that context.
To me, what's kind of special about the foundation is that it's always showing up open-hearted. with the idea that anything is possible and that people are worth listening to and responding to in whatever ways are in our power. And I don't think I've really ever seen so much integrity to that belief and that commitment to being open-hearted as I see every time I go to Akron. This is the stuff that seems simple, but it's the hard work, and they do it. And when you talk to their kids and their families, you know they keep their promises.
The thing is, living in this process has changed us all so much. Every step we take, we learn there's more work to do. As long as we keep our students, our families, and our community in focus, as long as we keep listening and seeking to understand, as long as we keep asking questions and imagining amazing solutions together, then our community will continue to be empowered and will continue to be healthier.
The most important thing is that we are empowering our kids in our community, and we're doing that. I'd be lying if I said we knew what we were getting ourselves into when we started.
But we ourselves have grown through the process.
And with our community's support and the partners and experts that have helped us along the way, our kids have been empowered. Our families' lives have been changed.
It's just like renovating that house. We've always been willing to do the work, to shine a light in the hard-to-reach spots, not just slapping a coat of paint on. We're talking total renovation, from inside out.
Doing the work, not by yourself, but in partnership and community and being forever teachable. It's not easy, but the results are clear.
When I think about what this place is gonna be for our families, how it's gonna empower them, how it's gonna be a place for them to grow, for them to become better versions of themselves, a place to work, a place to get together, I just get excited.
When you come to Akron and you talk to the families and the educators and the many other people who are so excited to be a part of the movement, and you feel what's happening, you know that it's special. And when you come alongside the foundation and you see that they actually do what they say and they practice what they preach, this is something to be a part of. We can already see the impact here at McKeesport.
Empowering people requires radical transformation, not a coat of paint, but inside out transformation.
But that's what our kids in the I Promise School practice every day. And that's what we hold ourselves to as well.
We are passionate.
We keep our promises.
We are family.
If you can change one life, you can change the world.
When I look at what's happening in Akron, I know that this, the I Promise movement, that it is changing the world.